everyone. Today we'll understand the next layer. The next layer is the business logic layer. Okay. So last time we have understood the data layer, and in the data layer we have understood table, column, and index. So all these things we have understood. The next layer is the business logic layer. Now in the business logic layer, what happens is we implement all our business logics. Now what are those business logic? Now let's say somebody is saying that in my company I want to keep customers Aadhaar card information. Now Aadhaar card information is not given by Oracle by default. Okay, this is a business decision and we have to add a new field to keep this data. Okay, so this is a typical business decision and that's why we are keeping it in the business logic layer. Now let's say somebody is saying that okay, I want to implement a validation that the mobile number should be 10-digit number. Without 10-digit number will not allow the record to get saved in the system. So that is also a business decision. So that's all these things are coming under business logic layer. Now let's say there is one more requirement that there will be a service request. Under service request there will be lot of activity. So service request and activity are two business entity and these are parent-child relationship. So this is a business implementation that okay, there will be a service request and under which we will be having lot of activity. So these are actually parent-child relationship. So the relationship between parent and child will be getting stored in the layer of business logic layer. So all these things will be seeing in the business logic layer. Okay, so what are those objects? There will be a field which will be pointing to column, there will be BC which will be pointing to table, there are a lot of combinations of BC will under a BO that is called a business object. So all these things will be coming under the business logic layer, which are actually implement the business logic but it don't show in the UI. Okay, so this is called business logic. Let's say a lot of scripting we want to do, we'll be doing in this particular layer. Lot of functionality we want to implement, we'll be doing it in the business logic layer. So that's why we are saying it as a business logic layer. Okay? Now let's understand what are these things present inside business logic layer. Now in this business logic layer there will be two different parts. Okay, one will be BC field and another will be BO link. Okay, so today we are going to cover the join. Okay, the BC field, all these things will be understand. The BC properties, the field properties, all these things will be understanding. Now the next part will be understanding the link. Okay, so join and link to important concept of Siebel. So let's understand those things. Okay, now the business logic layer. The business component contains all business logic that in this object. Okay, it is also make us to know the relation with the other business entities. We can also implement our custom business logic here. Okay, now what is custom business logic? Let's say I am saying that in a particular table I am keeping customers bike information and car information. Okay, let's say there is a table called s underscore org underscore ext underscore xm. Okay, so this xm table I can keep multiple variety of data. Now let's say there are customers which are having multiple bike and I have kept his information in the xm table. Okay, the type is bike. Now let's say I have kept customers car information also in the same table, but I want to, when I want to show in the UI or I want to segregate, I can put a search specification or I can put a filter criteria. Okay, you show me only bike information in this particular page and you show me only car information in that particular page. Okay, so this search specification where type is equal to bike, if I will put, then only bike related data will show in this page. Where type is equal to car, then it will show me only car information in that particular page. Okay, so that is called the search specification we can implement. Some lot of time what we need is, it is like to make the business easy. Okay, so let's say there are a lot of transaction to be get approved. Okay, how transaction get approved? Actually, in real time, what happens is the manager comes with the paper bill invoice. They will become, and in the system they will verify that whichever paper bill they are having or whichever paper invoice they are having, that is recorded in the system or not. Okay, so they verify. Now assume that in the transaction I'll be having 2 lakh data, and this paper which he will be coming yesterday's data. Now yesterday's, let's say, assume that 100 number of transaction happened. Now those 100 number of transaction he want to see in the system. Assume that all those 2 lakh data it is sourced to customer, sourced to manager, and he want to search this 100 record of data. So it will be very time consuming process for him to search this 100 number of invoices in the system. So that's why we can put a filter that whenever managers getting login, you only show the 100 number of record which are pending for approval status. Okay, so created yesterday and pending for approval status, if we will put a filter in the PC layer, then when he will be getting login, out of those 2 lakh data, only 100 number of record it will show, so that it will match with invoice and he can approve it easily, and the work time will be get finished very quickly. So this kind of implementation we implement according to the business. Okay, so that it will help us to run our business very smoothly. So that's why we have such specification, such specification. So it will be showing us the data in a short order. Okay, so the recent record will be on the top and the older record will be below. And he also come up with the invoice with a recent record or the invoice number. Let's say we will sort it with the invoice number. Then it will be easy for him to search. Okay, first invoice 1 he will go and approve, invoice 2 he will check and approve. So like this he can do. So that's why in the PC layer we can put our sort specification, that is called sort specification. We can put a sort order. Okay, now search specification is something like we can put our search criteria, or we can put our filter criteria to fetch the data. That is called search specification. Okay, now what are the things present under PC? Under PC will be having field, will be having join, will be having multi-value link, will be having custom view mode, will be having user properties, BC user properties, will be having BC server script. So all these things will be present. Okay, so today we'll be understanding the field and join. Okay, the all other part will be understanding one after another in the next class, and next class we'll be understanding all these things. Okay, yeah. Now let's next. Okay, now this is a BC. Okay, BC is a parent object. Now applet control, these things are UI object, we'll understand in the UI layer. Now under BC we have two different variety of field. One is one is direct field and one is join field. Okay, now question arises is what is direct field and what is join field. Okay, so each BC will be pointing to a table, a particular table. Okay, now let's understand. So let's go to a BC. Let's say this is the typical Siebel tools where we will be doing our deployment. So this is the BC object. Now let's say any BC we search. Okay, let's search a BC called action BC. Okay, now in this action BC there will be a table property. Let's see, there will be a table property. See, so this is the table property we have. Okay. So this property is called as table property, where we will be giving the table name. So each BC will be pointing to a table name where we will be keeping our data in that particular table. So that is called table property. Okay. So each BC will be having the table property, and if we are referring the field belongs to this table. Okay. So now go to field. Let's say we'll be going to field, and if the column is having belongs to this particular table, then it is called as direct field. Okay, so the field which are coming from the table which we referred in the BC, that is called as direct field. Now there are lot of fields which are actually coming from another table. Okay, so that we called it as join field. Sometimes what happens, let's say in the service request BC I want to show the account information. Okay, now what how I can do the account information? Now let's go to service request BC. This is called service request BC. Now in this service request BC, assume that I want to get the account information. So how we will be getting? Now go to field and I want to get the account information. So account, this account name, it is storing in some other table, not in the service request table. Now how we can pull that value? We have to create a join. Okay, so here comes the join. Now join is something like we have to provide the table name from which we want to pull the data. So what is join? Join is when we need information other than the base table, then we have to create a join. Okay, now here I need account information and I need from which table? I will be needing from s underscore org underscore ext table. Now for this what I have to do? I have to create a join. Okay, now let's go to join. So I have to search with alias name as join. Okay, once I search the alias name as join, then in this is a table and it is having 10 lakh data. Okay, now out of all those 10 lakh data, how this record will be related, or how this let's say service request we are referring to a record. Now that record, how it will be relating to this in any of this record? So there should be a specification, or there should be a uh, connection in between, so that it will be pulling the correct data out of those 10 lakh data. How it will pull which record to be get pulled? So it should be some information. Okay, so where we maintain that information? Okay, now under this join there will be having a child, one more child object, that is called join specification. Okay, now in the join specification there are two things we will be having. Okay, one will be destination column, one will be source field. Okay, so source field and destination column, this is we have to mention or we have to provide. Now let's understand what is these things. Okay, let's understand. Okay, assume that there is a table called s underscore org underscore ext. Right, this is a table, and I am having one more table called s underscore srv underscore rq. This is one more table. Okay, now in this table I'll be having column called row id, I'll be having column called name, I'll be having column called age, something, three different column I am having. Now here I have a column 1 hyphen abc. Okay, then I am having name called associate, and I am having age called 32. Similarly, in the service request I am having row id, I am having SR number, I am having requirement or description. So these are the columns I am having. Okay, now here let's say let's say I am having one more record ideas. Okay, now SR number I am having 1 hyphen 11, sorry, 0 0 0 0 1. Now description I am having key description, this is the SR number, and this is the row ID. Now for this service request, I want to populate that for which account, for whom we are doing it. Okay, so I want to show the account row ID. Okay, now there should be a column called CSTOUI. There should be a column present here in the service request table. Okay, which will be keeping the row ID of account, so that we can relate that okay, this service request is belongs to Sushi. So this is what we have to specify. Okay, now in the service per join, in the service request BC, there should have a column. Okay, there should have a column which will be keeping the value of the SORGXT. So let's say there is one more service, one more account I have, one hyphen XYZ, and the name I am having Ram. Okay, now age I am having 32. Now assume that I have created one more record called PHU, and service request number is 0002, and some description I am having, and here I am giving one hyphen XYZ. It means this is belongs to RAM. Okay, so these are the table informations. From the table we are understanding. Okay, if in this particular column, whichever records row ID of account records row ID is getting stored, this particular service request belongs to that particular record. Okay, so in the in this, what we are doing, we are referring from these two columns, we are referring. So this is the column which are present in the service request BC, means in our BC, and this is the column which is actually the primary key. Okay, so this is the foreign key and this is the primary key. Okay, now so this foreign key primary key information we have to keep it in the Siebel. So where we can provide in under join, there will be a join specification where we have to provide that source field. Source field is foreign key. Okay, now destination column is the primary key. Okay, source field always belongs to the current BC where we are referring, and destination column always belongs to the destinated, or the from which column from which table we want to pull the data. Okay, now this is how we can provide the source field. Okay, source field means in this column we have to, because it is our particular table, so we can create a field on this particular column, so that field we can refer it. So always in the join, there should we have to provide the source field and destination column. Okay, so here what we are providing is source field and the destination column. Okay, source field belongs to our BC, our which BC we are currently referring. Destination column belongs to the table which we are referring. Okay, now here source field we have provided as account ID. Now what is the column of account ID? The column of the account ID is CSTOUID. Okay, so now what we have to provide in the join? It's simple. In the join we have to provide, we are referring to table here. Okay, one is base table from which we are actually referring in this particular basic, and another is join table from which we are pulling the data. To pull the data, what we can do is we have to provide the join details like join table name we have to provide, and the join specification. Join specification is nothing but the relationship between this table we have to provide. Okay. Now in this, what we have to do, we have to provide source field and destination column. Okay. So these two things we have to provide, source field and destination column. Once we pull this thing, now in any value we can pull it from here. Okay. Assume that I want account number as a field or account name. So what we can do, because we have already established the value, so this value we can pull it here. Okay. Now let's convert these things into SQL. Okay. So how I can pull these things to SQL? Let's say there is select star from Siebel dot s underscore srvreq as table A, comma Siebel dot s underscore orgext as table B. Okay. Now we have to provide two different like the relationship we have to provide, where A dot cst underscore ou underscore id is equal to B dot mark row id. Okay. So this is what we have to provide. And now let's say I want to pull, let's say here I have given and row a dot row id is equal to this 2 hyphen OU. Okay. So now let's say I want to get what is the account information. I can get B dot name, so it will tell me the value as Susil Behar. Okay, or Susil. So this is how we can pull. Now this information which we have generated in the SQL statement, how we can get it in the Siebel tools. So what we can do, once the join got established, okay, now I can go to field, okay, and I can put the value under join as table name orgext. Once I provided this information, I can pull any value from the orgext table. Let it be name, let it be comment, let it be location, number, any value I want, I can pull it like this. Okay. So this is how we can get the value from another table. So join is used to pull the data from another table. So that is why we are using join. Okay. Now one more thing is, in case of a join, what happens is the record or the value which shows in the UI are actually read-only field. We cannot modify. We cannot have any access to modify these fields. Okay. Let's say we want to modify. We have to go to account to BC. We have to go to that record and we can modify. But a join field is not editable. We cannot modify. Okay. Now moving to next. So the base table single value field, it can have two different type of value. Okay, one is base table, one is join table. It is referred. Okay. Now moving to next slide. Okay, BC field. So normal BC field name column, field name column, field name column. So this is contact BC field name and corresponding column. Now join field. So BC, there will be base table which will be referring the normal field, and there will be couple of fields which are coming from another table. We call it a join table. Now how they will be related to each other? In the base table there should be a foreign key which will be keeping the row ID of join table. Okay. Now here let's say 10 lakh record. Out of those 10 lakh record, only one record will be related to this table. So that record we have to specify which record is related to this record. Okay. So in the foreign key, I'll be keeping that record's row ID. That's it. Once I kept that one, then we can go to this record. We can see what is the foreign key column value, and we will be referring to that record of join table. So let's say I want to join field, I want J1 value, or join field 4, I want to J2 value, I can pull it. Okay. So all these things will be read only. Now coming to system field, so like the column, in the field also we have ID created by, updated by. These are actually system created field which are provided by system and populated by system. We don't have any access to this. Okay. So this is called system field. Okay. Now coming to join property. Okay. Now in the field property. In the field we have lot of field properties. Now let's understand what are these things. So join, till now we have understood what is join. Join is like when we want to pull a data other than the base table, then we have to use the join table. Okay. Now column is referring to the current BC if it is a like a normal field, and join BC like join table if it is a join field. Okay. So this column will get changed if we have provided the join. The column it will show is from the join table. If we don't have provided anything, then it will show as the base table column. Okay, so this is column. Now calculated. If we will see in that BC layer, we have lot of fields which are actually calculated. So calculated is something like we don't refer to any table column. Now if we'll see, there is no table column, no join, no column. Now what are these things? Sometimes what happens, we have to do calculation on some fields. Okay, so if we want to do calculation, let's say here it is calculating the age of service request. So now how it is calculating? It is writing that okay, today's date minus created. So let's say 5 days back it got created. So today's date minus 5 days back created. So it will give me the age as 5 days. So the service request the old is 5 days. Okay. So similarly, so this is a calculation we are doing, and we are referring some another field. So the job calculated is to do calculation on another field, and it gives us the result. Now calculated field are also read only. We don't have access to modify. Siebel Siebel calculate this and